Hello, and welcome to the Alexander Society. I'm your host, smitten young artist involved in a passionate relationship with one of the greatest artists of all time, Derek, joined by my friend and co-host, my lover's angry estranged wife, Tim. How are we doing, Tim?
I'm baffled, kerfluffled.
What? What's wrong with that? What are you not getting?
I had no idea that Picasso had any gay tendencies at all. Like,
Oh, no, we're both women.
what? You're saying an estranged wife, your lover's estranged wife, that implies a lesbian relationship at the time of Picasso.
No, my lover is Picasso, his estranged wife. Yeah.
Oh, okay. The way you worded that was so It sounded like the paramour's wife.
No.
Yeah, the way you worded it, I was so fucking confused.
Yeah, no.
Whew.
Anyways, Tim, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I got Vegeta in my lap, and he is being a good boy, like he wants to be when he tries.
Ah, my sweet child.
Also, I pre-gamed today, thinking you weren't actually gonna hop on because I figured you just kind of like, hey, can we push it to like Saturday or some shit?
Nope, not doing that again.
And so, I am probably at like a 3.5 to a 4 right now.
Oh, hell yeah.
And with these being a 5%, I am probably going to end up at like a 6 or a 7 by the end of the podcast.
Excellent. Lovely.
With our lowered rules. Not rules, but like lowered bar that we have on drinking now. So, Derek, how are you doing today?
Work's starting to suck again. Not gonna lie.
Oh, shit. How come?
It's not bad. It's just,
Is it because of the slow season?
partially that. It's been a mix of like super busy and followed by like hours of nothing to do. And then
Are you still signed into my Audible?
I can't listen to stuff while I'm at work.
You can't?
No.
Why the fuck not? That makes no sense.
Because we're front facing at the patients and we can't have like stuff in our ears, like earbuds in, or have something going on our phone while we're working because the patients are going to hear it. And,
That's gay.
I know. Another thing is that this clinic that I work for has not been competently run in a very long time. And we're just now.
I remember you mentioning that you had to get them back on task and fix shit for a while. I assumed everything had been fixed already, but I guess that was a incorrect assumption.
Well, we're at the point now where the office manager who actually gives a shit has finally gotten us to the point where like it's feasible for the clinic to actually become like economically viable, like financially like solvent.
What you're saying is they were running at a loss until now?
Yeah, but it's a university clinic, so like nobody really cared because it was just funded, like it was state funded, so like it's not a for-profit business.
You didn't need to be you didn't need to be economically viable. Gotcha.
Yeah. But we've gotten to the point where like they actually have like a consistent tracking system for like patient balances. So they've started sending.
You guys didn't have that before? How did you know what people fucking owed?
My manager, when she got there, she spent the first year and a half of her tenure there just entering patient payments into their online charts because they had never been recorded before.
Holy shit. That's so fucking bad.
That's really bad. It's really bad.
That's so fucking bad. At a certain point, there's probably payments that are no longer legally bound because
yeah, there's
payments fall under statute of limitations? Because anything that falls under collection is under 7 years too.
Yeah, but like a lot of it was going to be written off anyways. But like a lot of what they're doing is like a lot of what was being done was actually getting information together so that they could send claims to insurance that had just never been sent.
I remember you mentioning that.
And so the statute on most of those was like 2 years. And so most of them fell within that, but it was still a lot. So But anyways, we've gotten to the point where we've got it so consistently down now that we're able to send out bills. And so we sent out our first round of bills a couple weeks ago, and now we're starting to get the calls in from people angry that they have balances they didn't know about. And so I've been having to deal with a bunch of fucking pissed off people who are getting...
Understandably so, but like it still sucks.
But yeah, that's how clinics work. It's not fun. It's not nice, but like I don't even run that part of it. I just have to take the phone call, and if they say they have a question about a bill, I'm like, okay, pass it on. But they'll just sit there and
fair enough. At least it's not your annoyance.
It's not my annoyance, but like I'll still have to sit there and listen to them bitch and whine about it for like 5 minutes before I can actually get a word in.
So, Derek, you ready to talk about Picasso?
Pablo Picasso. Oh, how do I open this?
Shittier human being than we thought about.
Yeah, so I'm gonna come out and say right now. So we talk a lot of the dudes that we talk about on this show, a lot of the men, because of the way that history is, the way it's recorded, and the role that women have traditionally played in societies around the world. Women don't very rarely come up as like main characters in a lot of these stories.
We should really try and like get a couple more female characters here coming up.
And we need to really try, because like that is a major shortcoming of history, is that so much of women's stories have just been
and it's not for a lack of being like good historical figures there. It's just they're not thought of. Like in Zeitgeist, we think of a bunch of bigger names, and it just kind of like lets the other people that were behind them, like that could have like that we could look into and find good stories, because like there are plenty of women throughout history that we could tell great. What was it? Eleanor of Aquitaine or something like that.
Yeah, Eleanor of Aquitaine.
You keep talking. You mentioned wanting to cover her at one point, and I know we kind of tangentially with, was it Charles the Great?
It was the Second Crusade.
Oh, Second Crusades. We had mentioned that before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that we wanted to kind of cover her at some point, and we haven't yet. And it does happen, but it's finding a good spot in our schedule where we feel like it, and it not necessarily naturally comes up, but like it feels good to cover it.
Right. And another kind of issue is that because women have so often been sidelined in a lot of, like, historically, like socially and politically, a lot of the great women from history trying to tell their story will necessarily have to, at some level, center at least a man, because a lot of women, the way that they become great is through men who have access to power. They're able to work through men, and so men will unavoidably end up being big parts of that story, whereas you do a story about a man, it's very easy to kind of leave women on the wayside. And that's something that I need to work on. That's something that historians need to work on. This is not one of those stories, for the worst reasons possible.
He's going to be a misogynist, isn't he?
One of the worst misogynists we've talked about on this show.
Oh, God, that's a high bar.
That is a very high bar.
Oh, fuck, that's a high bar. God damn it, Derek. I did not expect to go into the artist episode with that big of a bar. Holy fuck.
Like, you're gonna immediately notice there's a lot of similarities between Picasso and Hemingway.
God damn it. Are we really doing two misogynists back-to-back on our Alexander articles?
Okay, we're doing two misogynists back-to-back who were both leftist artists who traveled in the same circles and lived in the same area during the same time.
Holy shit, I didn't know he ran in the same circles as Heming.
There's going to be a lot of crossover characters between this episode and Hemingway, because they lived in Paris in the art scene together at the same time. They knew each other. They went to the same parties and stuff.
How the hell did we pull this shit off when our decision-making process on picking this topic was so divorced, and we somehow picked something that was in the same wheelhouse? Holy shit.
And then not just beyond that, like, there's so many similarities between these two men, both in how their lives ended up going and what their beliefs were, what their philosophies were, even like their connections to Spain. They both had like connections to Spain, especially northern Spain and bullfighting and things like that. Here's the main difference. Hemingway was a misogynist because he was a severely broken man. Picasso was a misogynist because he was just a genuine, earnest, salt-of-the-earth piece of shit. Just an honest-to-God, right-in-your-face motherfucker of the highest degree.
God damn.
Okay, bear with... I'm about to...
Time to learn about a misogynist artist.
Yeah, and here's what sucks. He was a genuinely very, very good artist. Brilliant. One of the greatest artists who has ever lived. Genuinely. And it really sucks that he treated women so poorly. Okay, so I'm going to introduce him now, and I'm going to say his full legal name. Bear with me, it's going to take a second.
Oh God, I didn't realize it was this bad of a legal name, but hit us.
Okay. Pablo Diego Jose Francisco de Paula Juan Nepomuceno Maria de los Remedios Cipriano de la Santísima Trinidad Ruiz y Picasso was born in Malaga, Spain on October 25th, 1881.
That reminds me of Esteban Julio Ricardo Montoya de la Rosa Ramirez from Seat Life, Zach and Cody.
Yeah, because Spanish people are Catholics, and Catholics love saints, and they want to name their kids after saints, but if you love a lot of saints, you can't just choose one, and so you just name your kids after a whole bunch of saints. And so that's what happened here, is he just has a bunch of saints' names.
Shit. Did you ever watch Sweet Life, Zach and Cody and watch him like say that?
Oh yeah.
He did it so fucking.
Esteban Julio Ricardo. I can't remember how to go. Esteban Julio Ricardo
Montoya de la Rosa Ramirez.
Montoya de la Rosa Ramirez. Esteban Julio Ricardo Montoya de la Rosa Ramirez.
I love how I had just said it and you didn't even remember it.
Hey, it's a long name. Come on.
Holy shit! Did you know he was a manager in that show?
A manager?
Yeah, he was an assistant night manager.
Oh, okay.
I'm looking at the wiki right now.
Okay, yeah, I guess that's just something they gave the doorman.
He was the bellboy. Oh! He got promoted at some point in the show.
Oh, okay. So, anyways, Pablo's father, a man named Jose Ruiz, not his full name, he was a naturalist painter and an art professor who himself was famous in Spain for his paintings of birds. He liked painting birds.
He was a burb artist?
He was a burb artist. And a professor. He was mainly a teacher, but he did paint a lot.
Nice.
Pablo adopted his father's love of art very early on. And according to his mother, his first word was peace. Which is the shortened form of the Spanish word lápiz, which means pencil. Because he was asking to hold the pencil so he could draw.
Interesting. I would have never guessed that peas was short for lapis, and lapis was...
Yeah.
When I think lapis lazuli, like the gem.
Yeah, lapis lazuli. Yeah, the blue one.
You pronounced it way better than I could even attempt to, so I'm going to stop here.
This is one of my superpowers. I'm good at picking up accents.
I mirror, but I only mirror when I'm confident I can say it right, and my brain stumbles way too often.
Fair. So, growing up, Pablo obsessed over art. He spent all of his time drawing and painting at the expense of his schoolwork. He was never good at school because he wanted to spend all of his time doing art. According to one probably not true but very funny story, when Pablo was 10, his father walked in on him drawing a bird, just like his dad did.
And he criticized the fuck out of him, didn't he?
Oh, no. Jose proceeded to have a nervous breakdown upon the realization that his 10-year-old son had surpassed him in artistic skill.
Holy shit!
Probably not a true story, but I very much enjoy it.
Could you imagine that? Like, hey, my entire life's work is being a bird artist, and my son just, like, has barely started artwork, and he fucking kicked my ass. I would be so fucked up in the head.
Yeah. Yeah, it fucked him up. Besides art, young Picasso was obsessed with bullfighting, which is another thing that he has in common with Hemingway. They both really enjoyed bullfighting.
I had no idea about Picasso being a bullfighter. Like that.
Yeah. Well, he wasn't a bullfighter, but he went to bullfighting events, and he enjoyed watching it.
You would think it would be brought up more, is what I'm trying to say, if it was that big of a... Like, I had no idea in like any kind of retrospect about that, is what I'm trying to say.
It does come up a lot in terms of, like, discussions about his artistic style and symbolism and things like that, because he used bulls in his artwork a lot. He used a lot of bulls.
How have I not seen any of his bull artwork?
I'm going to show you a few paintings, and you're going to see some bull, especially his big famous one, Guernica. There's a bull in that one, and he does bulls, centaurs, and then earlier on in his career, he did harlequins a lot, like French mime clowns. He did a lot of paintings of harlequins too.
Yeah, I haven't. I'm looking at it, like, I'm looking at Google Images right now, and like I've seen a couple bull things, but like I'm remembering the art style. When we talked about it earlier, I very obviously was thinking Van Gogh, not Picasso. But, like, I don't remember, like, I distinctly remember Picasso's art style now, and I don't remember seeing any bulls. Obviously, I wasn't, like, an art student or, like, major or anything like that, so my exposure to his artwork has been limited comparatively to someone who actually have sought out that knowledge. But I would have thought I would have definitely have seen it, like, some of the bull artwork before.
So, in 1895, Pablo's younger sister, Conchita, would pass away from diphtheria.
Aww.
Yeah. And his family...
Sip.
His family would want a change of scenery, so they would end up moving to Barcelona, which is in northeast Spain. Barcelona... Pablo loved Barcelona. Even he would live most of his adult life in France, but he loved Barcelona so much that he would, for the rest of his life, consider it his true home.
I've heard good things about Barcelona, to be perfectly honest.
Oh yeah, it's on my bucket list. I want to see Barcelona so bad.
There's so many places in the world that I would like to visit that I realistically, with our current economic system and our current... Hey, we're technically in the middle of a recession, but we're not officially called it, so I'm saying we're about to hit a recession. Like, and who knows how long this recession is going to last.
Yeah. So Pablo ends up applying to this prestige art school in Barcelona. The application process is basically like, if you want to get into the school, you have to paint an original painting or create an original piece of art. You get a month to do it. It usually takes applicants the whole month to do it. At the age of 13, he gets his painting done in a week.
Holy shit.
And he presents it, and they admit him on the spot.
No shit, Sherlock!
Hey, here's a shock. Picasso was really good at art. Who would have thought?
Sip.
So he would end up staying at that school for 3 years. He was not a good student, but he was good enough that...
Define not a good student. Because obviously he was great at art.
He didn't show up to class.
Oh, of course, if you're not showing up to class, you're not going to get grades.
Yeah, he didn't show up to class because he spent all day painting.
If you're going to miss class for any reason, I feel like if you're doing more art for an art school and you're missing class, that feels like the best reason, even if it's not a legitimate art for, like, obviously, like, legitimate as in, like, for your class or whatever, but, like, it feels more manageable.
Yeah. The real issue is that the type of art that he was studying was classical Europe. It was like classical European styles. So it's the way that they taught art back then was you have to spend long hours like doing like sketch studies and study and reading about color theory and reading about the intricacies of the old masters.
So like the boring parts of music theory.
Yeah, the exact reason why I never ended up, even though I had multiple music teachers tell me I could be a professional musician, I never wanted to do it because I fucking hate music theory.
I had a good analogy. Yay! I'm going to take a sip.
Kind of regret it now, but you know.
I mean, I should have had like a different major, considering I'm not using my goddamn major.
Yeah, it's weird to get a, like a criminal justice, criminal science type degree, and then you get out, and then you get to the point where you hate cops. Kind of.
Hey, fuck you!
It kind of limits your options. It kind of pigeonholes your future prospects there. That's like if I went to study.
I hate how accurate you are being right now, and my feelings are hurt.
It's like if I went to study like computer science, and then I got out of and then I graduated with my degree, and then I became a primitivist.
I don't even know what primitivist is, but I can guess on context.
That was a Ted Kaczynski joke.
That's exactly what I was picturing in my head. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh wait, no, he wasn't a computer science guy. He was a math major. My bad.
Yeah, but age him up like 10 years, he would have been a comp sci major.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
There's no doubt in my mind if he was given like 10, 15 years born later, he would have been a comp sci major. There's no doubt in my head.
Yeah, if he had been born 10 years...
And he would still be the incel he ended up being that bombed, and he would have had the same trajectory in life. He still would have like removed him. Like there's no scenario where Ted Kaczynski did not become the Unabomber, in my mind.
Yeah. Oh man, Kaczynski. If Kaczynski were still alive today, he'd fucking hate AI. Holy shit, he would despise AI.
He's not wrong to hate AI.
He would hate it for the correct reasons, but I can't say that about most of his beliefs. No, but if he were born like 10 years later, he would have been a comp sci major, and then he would have started like a weird sex cult in Silicon Valley.
He would have failed at creating one because he had no game. You remember the limericks about the one girl he went on a date with at work?
Oh, yeah.
He does not have the charisma to create a sex cult.
Okay, then he would have been sucked into and become the victim of a weird sex cult in Silicon Valley.
Now that I can believe, but he would have been the cuck.
Yes. Yeah. So, Pablo, even though he's still a good enough artist that he's able to successfully apply to the most prestigious art school in Spain, which is the Royal Academy of Fine Art in Madrid. Once again, he did not do well as a student, and he was there less than one semester before he just pretty much just up and left.
Failed the fuck out?
He didn't even fail. He just he never showed up in the first place. He went to a couple classes, decided he didn't like it, and then just went out and struck it out on his own. So he didn't do well as a student, not like I said, not because he lacked skill, but because he didn't like the way the art was taught there. Lots of studying the classics and stuff like that. So eventually he just stopped showing up. So instead of going to class, basically what he did was he would basically go around the school to where all of the art collections were. And he'd go and he'd look at the art there. And he took inspiration from the two major inspirations he took from were Francisco Goya, who is one of my favorite artists of all time. Have you ever seen Saturn devouring his child? That painting?
No.
Okay. You'd probably recognize it if you saw it. That's a Goya painting. One of my favorite paintings of all time. I love that one. And then he also... I didn't even bother trying to get this guy's name down into the script because his name is Greek. He was a Greek artist that inspired Picasso. Not even the Spanish tried to pronounce his name. They just called him El Greco, which is the Greek in Spanish. So I'm not even going to bother trying with his name. He's El Greco. He's a great Greek Spanish artist.
Okay.
And heavily inspired Picasso. So eventually he would leave the school without having accomplished much, and he began his career as a full-time artist. A lot of his early works around 1899 and 1900 were heavily inspired by the symbolist art movement, which was kind of developing at the time. It used color and tropes and motifs in order to portray meaning in a dramatic setting. So they'd use like a classical sort of art style, but they'd heavily rely on like particular symbols within their paintings in order to kind of convey messages and emotions. So like if you're doing a painting about death, you'd include like a basic like landscape scene, but you'd include like a skull, and you'd use like a lot of blacks and violets for that kind of a darker ambiance, that kind of thing. And so a lot of his earliest works were kind of in this same vein. Although he did kind of put his own special little spins on it. So like, I'm trying to see. No, I didn't save any of it. That's fine. So his own little spins were like, instead of using like traditional like classical color palettes to kind of portray like a naturalistic sort of approach, he used non-naturalistic colors that sometimes gave it like kind of neon, kind of surreal, dreamlike look to it. So colors that you wouldn't normally find in nature, to kind of give them like just make them a little bit more like dreamlike, like a little bit less realistic,
more abstract.
Yeah. In February 1901, Picasso was back in Barcelona. His best friend, who he'd met while he'd gone to Paris for a little bit, he'd met up with some other painters. His best friend was a guy named Casaquemas. His last name was Casaquemas. And this guy, while Picasso was out of town, Casaquemas invited a number of his friends, their mutual friends, to a restaurant in Paris where they had a dinner party. Casaquemas was madly in love with a young woman in their circle named Germaine. As the party finished up and they were finishing their dinner and they were having like a good after-dinner discussion, Casaquemas stood up before the assembled and professed his love for Germaine.
Ooh.
She was embarrassed and as gently as possible told him, "No, I'm not interested." And he lost his shit. He started freaking out and screaming and crying and convulsing and throwing stuff around the room. And then eventually he pulled out a gun from his...
How not to take rejection, boys.
He pulled out a gun.
Holy shit, pulled out a gun. Fuck.
And he tried to shoot Germaine, but he was crying so hard that his hands were shaking and the bullet missed.
Holy shit.
And so after it missed, he started freaking out even more, and he puts the gun to his head and pulls the trigger.
Did he end up killing himself?
Oh yeah, he was real dead. Yeah, he was real dead.
Fuck.
Yeah, this was Picasso's best friend. So Picasso finds out, and he is...
So he's not surrounding himself with mentally stable people?
No, he never is. Never once in his life. He's not... Something you got to realize in this art scene in Paris produced some of the most brilliant and magnificent artists in all of human history, and none of them were good people.
All of them needed a grippy sock vacation.
Pretty much, yeah. And boy, let me tell you, it only got worse after World War I, man. Boy, oh boy. So Picasso was devastated, of course. This period in his artwork is now referred to as the Blue Period, Picasso's Blue Period, because his artwork took on a very somber sort of tone and tenor to it. I'm going to send you a couple of works that kind of show you what this kind of period looked like in his artwork. These are two of his more famous pieces. So in that second picture, the man on the left that's being held by the woman, that is meant to look like his friend. That's what his friend looked like that died.
The first one, the one with the guitar?
No, the second one.
Okay, on the left.
Yeah, the man on the left who's being held by the woman.
Okay, interestingly weird, but
Yeah.
okay.
But yeah, you could gotta get a sense this was not a happy time in his life.
He just lost one of his best friends. I would be fucked up if you just out of nowhere passed away, Derek.
Yeah, that's fair. In 1904, Picasso met a woman by the name of Fernande Olivier. Fernande was an artist herself. She'd already had a little bit of her own good career going before they met, and the two of them soon formed a relationship. This was the beginning of what's called Picasso's Rose period, because his artwork started to take on a more upbeat sort of direction. There were a lot happier subjects. He used a lot of reds and pinks in his color palette, and it usually featured, most of his paintings during this time featured one of two subjects, either his new girlfriend Fernande or harlequins, which are, French clowns. Here are a couple of examples for you. Or here's one of probably his most famous one. So, you'll notice this style.
If you told me this had to do with clowns, I would not fucking believe you.
This one is not clowns. This one is one, it doesn't have Fernande or clowns in it.
Okay.
This is actually 5 prostitutes that he knew in real life. So this is one of his later sort of Rose period pieces. But it's also considered kind of the start of his next sort of phase of his artistic development, which was his African period. So, in 1905, Picasso was introduced to a name that you should remember from our Hemingway episode, Gertrude Stein.
She sounds familiar, but I can't place her. Obviously, it's one of those I struggle to remember anything past our specific topic people, but that's just because I have shit memory.
Yeah, so she was kind of the matron of the Paris artistic scene, and she kind of brought... she was kind of a mentor. She was a writer, and she was a mentor to Hemingway, and kind of got him on the track to becoming an author.
Okay.
So he meets Stein in 1905, and Stein becomes, because she's rich, she and her husband are rich, she becomes his first prominent patron. She would pay him a regular salary, and in exchange, he would give her any of the art pieces that he painted, and she would put them on display in her home, where she held her artistic salon of artists. And then she could sell them out of her home like a gallery. And this is the first time Picasso was able to make real money with his art. Up to this point, he'd kind of been living in squalor, poverty, kind of couch hopping and everything. And now he's actually making money. He can make a living off of his art now.
Nice.
And then in 1907, this is when he really hits it big. Picasso joined an art gallery owned by a German art dealer living in Paris by the name of Daniel Henri Kahnweiler. Kahnweiler is remembered today as one of the most prolific art collectors and art dealers of the 20th century. And he loved Picasso. He loved Picasso's work. So he kind of took Picasso in and started buying his works. And then because he was such a prominent art exhibitionist, he was able to get them sold to higher and higher profile clients. So now at this point, Picasso's not just surviving off his art, he's making real money. And he's starting to get a name. People are starting to recognize him. He's starting to get famous.
Okay.
It was about that time that Kahnweiler hosted an exhibition at his gallery. It was an exhibit of African, traditional African sculptures. And this would be one of the most influential inspirations on Picasso's work. He was blown away by he would look at, especially the masks. There were masks and stone busts that were brought from Africa, and the way that it was put, the way that I understand it is the artwork of these traditional pieces the traditional style. I'm not sure what part of Africa it was from. It was probably kind of a mishmash from all over Africa because it's Europe in 1907. They're not differentiating between different parts of Africa. But a lot of the pieces that he saw were basically like they were exaggerating features. They were like elongated faces and sunken long noses and either beady eyes or like huge, enormous eyes that were more detailed than the surrounding figure. And it struck him so much because what he saw in it was that this art style was taking the complexity of life, the complexity of like real world things, and it was simplifying it without detracting and in some cases even enhancing the inherent sort of spirit of the piece, of what it was trying to represent. So you can see a slab of rock and it's very curvy and wavy, and it has the vague imprint of like the vague sense of a nose and some sunken in eyes and maybe some lips, and it barely looks like a face, but at the same time it's portraying a huge amount of emotion just from its shape and its color and its texture. And this was a revelation for him because it made him realize that you don't need to accurately portray actual real things. And in fact, in some cases, trying to portray a three-dimensional object on a two-dimensional medium is a hindrance. It holds you back from being able to portray the thing that you're trying to show. And so if you can abstract it, you can, in a sense, kind of show that same object, but from multiple different angles at once on a two-dimensional medium. Do you kind of follow what I'm saying? You kind of get?
Yeah. It's one of those things where it's like, normally this would not convey what they're trying to do, but it's taken the totality of circumstances, and it does convey way more than if you just looked at it out of context.
Yeah, it's like what I heard about a lot of like docudramas and things like that. Like a good docudrama is factual, but a great docudrama is not factual but accurate, which means like it's accurate to the spirit of the events rather than strictly what actually happened.
Yeah.
And he's kind of doing that idea, but with like physical, like platonic forms. He's in his artwork,
He's straddling the line.
Yeah, he's going to take three-dimensional objects that most people would just translate into a two-dimensional space. He is going to put it into a two-dimensional space, and then he's going to break it into tiny little geometric pieces and then reassemble it into something that is more than the sum of its parts.
Yep.
His first African-inspired work, and possibly one of the single most important works of art in the 20th century, without exaggerating, is that painting that I sent you, that last one. That is a piece...
The one with the 5 hookers?
Yes. That piece is called Les Demoiselles d'Avignon. It was significantly more abstract than his previous works, and you can see, especially on the faces of the two women on the right, was heavily inspired by African artwork.
Holy shit, so many things just clicked when you said that. Like, I would have never, like, associated the African artwork with Picasso, but it, like, just because I didn't have the terms or whatever to put with that, but when you say that, that makes so much more sense than just viewing them in the, like, the solidarity of not knowing that it was that influenced it. Like, I can definitely tell you that now. Like, holy shit.
Yeah. So Picasso presented this painting to his friends, who were all artists, and they all hated it.
Fuck them.
They all thought it was the most disgusting piece of work that they had ever seen. They thought that he was playing a prank on them.
The fuck?
Because this was so unlike any other piece of art that had ever been made in the European tradition. This was so abstract that it didn't make sense as a piece of art to them. And so he was very disheartened, and he basically just put the painting up in a closet, and it wouldn't see the light of day again until he finally worked up the bravery to put it in a display in 1916, 9 years later.
It's like, if we can call that fucker who taped a banana to the wall art, this painting by Picasso deserves to be called art.
The real art of the banana taped to the wall was everybody's reaction to it. That was the real art. That guy's actually a genius.
That, I know it's not quite related, but it reminds me of like the absurdness of the art. Do you remember that one art exhibition where it's a mechanical arm that has to squeegee its like oil or whatever? That it reminds me of that for some reason.
Yeah. Oh, it's not oil. It's actual human blood.
What?
Yeah.
I thought it was just like the servo grease or whatever it was supposed to be using dyed red.
No, it's actual human blood.
Human blood was greasing that machine? That adds so many layers to that shit.
Yeah, because the point was that the arm was never meant to go on forever. It was meant to eventually like rust out and break down.
I remember seeing a clip of its last few seconds of it like stuttering out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I love absurdist art, both because I'm a big fan of just absurdism as a philosophy. I really, even I'm kind of wishy-washy on it like myself, but like I love the thought experiments you can pull out of it. It's a very fascinating field of philosophy, and I love the artwork that comes out of it. One of my favorite pieces of art is Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead. Incredible.
I don't recognize that one.
I saw it as a movie, but I believe it started out as a play. It's basically the story of Hamlet, but from the perspective of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. And half of the show is the two of them talking between scenes, like the scenes that because they're not in the whole show of Hamlet. So in the between the scenes of the actual play Hamlet, they'll just be standing around talking about like, it feels like we're just sitting around waiting for the next scene of a play. It feels like we're kind of tertiary to this world, and get nothing that direct, but they're just kind of like talking about like what's the point of us being here? Why are we actually here? And then the next scene comes in and they do their lines normally, like in the Shakespeare play, and then the scene cut goes away again, and then they're back to just like existentialism.
Damn.
Your first watch through, you're very confused. Your second watch through, you're laughing your ass off. It is so funny.
You're going to have to send me this so I can watch it.
Yeah. So, anyways, this painting, Les Demoiselles d'Avignon, is so important because it's considered to be the first work of an art style called Cubism, which Picasso is going to invent. Cubism would then heavily inspire physical art within the Surrealist movement, and Cubism and Surrealism would kind of work off of each other, until that style of abstract art would eventually become the bedrock for what is today basically all modern art. This is, in a real sense, this painting is the very first modern art, and it is the bedrock of basically all art that has come after it in the Western canon. That's why it's so important. And guess what? It happened, and it was made because Picasso was directly inspired by traditional African artwork. And he would deny that fact until the day he died.
Fuck this man.
Because he's a piece of shit. So, following this, we would see his style develop into the Cubism, as I mentioned, that he's so famous for, including probably my favorite Picasso piece. It's a portrait that he painted of his patron, Conviler, in 1910. I'm going to send it to you right now. This is one of my favorite paintings of all time. This is a portrait.
Convenient. As a plebeian, I don't know how this is described as a portrait, but hey-ho.
Because you can, if you just stand back a little bit, you take the whole thing in, you can see the eyes, you can see the swoop of his hair, you can see the bridge of his nose, and then down at the bottom you can see, like in the middle you can see like his black coat, And then at the bottom, you can see his hands folded in his lap. And it is him. And it is a representation of him. Not because it's showing what he looks like, because that is something that cannot be properly shown to a full extent on a two-dimensional medium. So instead, what Picasso has done is he's taken this image of his friend and he's broken it apart into geometric shapes and reassembled it into something that still shows who he is, but in different ways. Because what this isn't showing him through his physical form. This is showing him through the emotions and the ideas that are invoked from the from the shapes and the patterns and the color palette.
I feel like there's a lot lost when you have it just an image on a computer. I feel like if we actually got to look at it in person, it would
probably, yeah, that is the case with every painting. Yeah. So in 1912, Picasso began producing works of cubism that used collage techniques instead of painting, basically producing a style that's now called synthetic cubism. These works are considered to be the invention of modern collage art. So collage as a type of artwork that people do for modern art, he also invented that. And I'll send you an example. So this is actually constructed from, basically he took the back of a wicker chair and then cut it into an oval and then painted like an abstracted still life scene on it, and then wrapped the whole thing in like a rope.
Nice.
I like it. I'd hang that up. That's very much like especially the color palette. I fucking love the color palette. The kind of on the edges you get kind of that orange ochre kind of blending in with the whites.
It feels something that would be a surrealist like belt buckle at like something. It looks
belt buckle of the
it looks like a fucking belt buckle.
You go to the rodeo and the bull they're riding is a minotaur. Albert Camus in a cowboy hat standing off to the side smoking a cigarette and just like, yeah, I shot my mom earlier.
There's a centaur just looking horrified off to the side like
and like the centaur's the only guy there that's not depressed.
Yeah, everyone else is just drunk as shit. Even the satyrs, they're like, yeah, fuck yeah! And then everyone wakes up the next morning like, oh, I can't believe I condone that. And they're just so fucking ashamed.
Yeah, the Marxist cowboys and the fascist, like, futurist cowboys are off to the side getting into a fist fight. In the middle of the rodeo, they bring out the rodeo clown and just behead him.
It's just
cut his head off in the middle of this ring. There's a cowboy off to the side pushing a wagon up a hill, and right before he gets to the top, it falls back down, and he has to go back down.
He gets decapitated every time it falls down. Zeus is just sitting there disappointed, but he can't call the cops fast enough.
So by this point, thanks to his connection with Kahnweiler, he was now like an internationally famous artist, and he had a tidy fortune to call his own. Like he would be by today's
a Tide fortune. Holy shit! Is he eating Tide Pods? That's bad. I should see myself out, but we still need to record.
You should eat Tide Pods. But yeah, so by today's standards, he'd be like a multimillionaire. He was successful. So naturally, he dumped his girlfriend for another woman by the name of Eva Goul.
That was his first mistake. You dumped someone for a woman named Goul? You're asking for trouble.
He did have trouble, and I don't... It's... Okay. He fell madly in love with Eva, and just like every other woman he would ever have a relationship with, she would feature prominently in many of his works. Unfortunately for Picasso, and maybe fortunately for her, she would not live long enough for him to start abusing her.
Oh, fuck. That is both good and, like, horrible all at the same time. I don't know how to feel.
Yeah, she died of tuberculosis in 1915.
God damn it. It was the fucking consumption. It all leads back to Hank Green. God damn it.
It's always the fucking consumption. Every story in history has to have somebody dying of tuberculosis. It's every single time.
Hank Green's out there somewhere shaking his fist at it.
So yeah, this is basically the pattern that happens with every woman in his life. He falls madly in love with somebody.
And then he abuses the shit out of her.
He begins to cheat on his current partner with them while he is actively abusing his current partner. Eventually, current partner finds out, they break up, and then he ends up in a relationship with the mistress. And then he starts abusing the mistress while he's hooking up with other women. Eventually finds one that he falls in love with, and then same thing, rinse and repeat.
That's something that I cannot fathom. Hey, maybe you're just getting your jollies off with someone you know is cheating. Like, that's fine. Like, I don't think it's good. But, like, if it's just, like, in the same vein of, like, a one-night stand or just, like, hey, it's meaningless sex, it's fine. Like, from, like, the person who is, like, not doing the cheating, like, the person who's just hooking up with someone or whatever, even if they know they're cheating, like, I don't think it's morally good, like, from a relationship standpoint, like, your relationship with the cheater, like, yeah, you know what the kind of person they are. Why the fuck do you think they're above doing that to you once you actually enter a relationship with them? Why would you intentionally subject yourself to that? Like,
yeah. Then again, this is France. This is just kind of how they do relationships.
France is an incestuous bed of just fucking everyone.
Yeah. To kind of give you an idea, like, his attitude towards women was basically like, well, here, let me put it in his own words. Picasso is once quoted as saying, all women are one of two things. They are either goddesses or doormats.
And I bet you he viewed them interchangeably.
And that's the thing, is that even if he saw one as a goddess, even if he was obsessed with a woman, he was deeply, madly in love. He was madly in love with them because she was an inspiration for his creativity. She was a muse. She had utility to him. If he ran out of inspiration from her, he just treated her like trash that he needed to take out. And this wasn't...
So he never loved these women. He just loved what they did for him.
Yeah, basically, he loved the emotion of being obsessively in love with somebody because it helped... It reflected better in his art. It helped him create art better. But he never really, actually loved these women as people because he didn't see them as people. He saw them as muses. And, they say a lot of stuff about muses, like how they inspire the male soul to the creative apex of our species.
What you're saying is everything I know about muses is a lie and they're just a misogynistic idea of...
Yes.
Just idealizing women to then break them down once you no longer give a shit about them.
Calling a woman a muse to an artist is like calling a woman a slut to a womanizer. A muse is a...
That makes so goddamn sense that I'm just kind of sitting here having a realization of society.
Yeah, a muse is a title given to a woman who has been designated a tool, who has a utility for a man to be able to create art. Just like, a whore is a title for a woman whose utility is to give men sex. And that's what these women are to him. They're muses. They spark the creative juice in his brain to make better art.
He's quite literally just using them.
Yes. Like batteries. And then he throws them out. And people in his life, people who...
Ooh, no shiny thing. Ooh, new shiny thing.
Yeah, women that he dates say exactly that about him, that he just uses women up and then discards them when they're sucked dry. So, his girlfriend dies, and also, by the way, World War I started the year before that. And he's living in France.
Oh, shit.
So, all of his French friends go off, either they're drafted or they'd go off to volunteer for the army. On top of that, the guy that was paying him, who made him a millionaire off of his artwork, Kahnweiler was German. So as soon as the war started, the French government deported his ass.
Ooh, so he lost his backing.
Yeah. So that's okay, though, because he just went back to the only two things that he knew how to do, which was painting and fucking.
And abusing women, you mean?
Yeah, that goes along with the fucking. He started dating a woman by the name of Gabby Lespenas, and then started cheating on her with a ballerina by the name of Olga Koklova, who's Russian. He and Olga would end up being, after he and Gabby broke up because she found out he was cheating on her with Olga, he and Olga would end up getting married in 1918. And then in 1921...
Poor Olga. I know we mentioned this earlier, but I just can't fathom someone who gets together officially and then marries a cheater and just be like, oh yeah, they're never going to cheat again. We're going to be great. We're going to have a perfectly happy life. How fucking delusional do you have to be? And I mean this from both ends of the spectrum. Like, if a man's cheating or a woman's cheating, because like if someone has it into them to cheat, and I mean like a true cheating, like I'm not talking like sometimes there's like existential circumstances where like you can't necessarily leave a relationship or whatever before you move on or before you get entangled with someone else because like hey, specifically from a woman's standpoint, a lot of times from the man's standpoint, there's no excuse if they're cheating, but like from the woman's standpoint, a lot of the time, there's a lot of external factors that can lead to like, hey, I'm not officially out of this relationship, but it's not necessarily in my mind cheating because like, hey, this relationship is over, but they can't just like quote unquote leave due to either financial coercion or something else.
Right. So he and Olga would have a son in 1921, who they named Paulo. Paulo would later grow up to be a motorcycle race, like a professional motorcycle racer.
So like a proto Evel Knievel?
He was just racing the motorcycle. He wouldn't do like tricks on them. He'd just do like street like.
That's on me. Every time I think motorcycle, I think trick motorcycle, not racing motorcycle for some reason, and that's just one of the.
Mm-hmm. Paulo was born in 1921. Olga loved the high life. She loved the wealth, the ostentation. She loved jewelry, fine clothes, parties, soirees. She loved the fine art, all of this stuff, champagne, all of it. It was the Roaring 20s. She wanted to party. She wanted to live the rich life.
Party!
Picasso, in his heart of hearts, is a bohemian through and through. He doesn't want to He doesn't want to spend his nights in the Ritz. He wants to spend his night in like a dungy apartment with 10 other artists bouncing ideas off each other. And he wants to dedicate all of his time to art, which incidentally does not leave a lot of room for parties or, to put it bluntly, family. And this understandably was a source of contention between the two of them, and Picasso would react by, what else? Sleeping around.
He's a fucking fuckboy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Following the war, there was a movement of artists that's now nicknamed the Return to Order. I'm sure it sounds way better in French, but it was a movement of artists that in the immediate aftermath of World War I, a lot of artists who had traditionally done like a lot of experimental artwork, like a lot of like cubism, like what Picasso was doing, started kind of returning to their neoclassical roots with their artwork. And he kind of did the same thing during this time. He kind of took a lot of the abstraction out of his artwork in the early 20s. Here is an example.
That's not even like, obviously I have to see the example, but like that, if it's not abstract, it's not really fucking Picasso.
Well, that's the thing, is that he's very, he does a lot of styles really well. Like,
what I mean, it's not uniquely Picasso. I mean, like, that doesn't feel like so. If you showed me that artwork, no way in hell would I be able to tell you that is Picasso's work.
Yeah, because Picasso is so associated with cubism and abstractism. But he did do a lot of artwork outside of that. It's just because he invented those kinds of styles is the big reason why he's so like. You look at a Picasso piece in like his cubism, like yeah, very obviously that's a Picasso, but
So what you're saying is like cubism is his like extreme on the end of the spectrum, but we only know him for the extreme end of his
yeah,
spectrum
pretty
of his
much.
artwork.
But like here, let me see if I can find another piece that I'm thinking of. This one I think he actually painted when he was like 14. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, so he painted this one when he was 15.
I wouldn't call that communion because I don't see any like when I think communion, I think Holy Communion, like taking, like imbibing the body of Christ and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's what this is. This was his portrayal of his sister's first communion.
Yes, but there's no imagery that invokes there's no chalice and there's no like bread.
To a Catholic, a Catholic immediately recognizes, oh yeah, this is a first communion.
Has it changed that much in the years? I consider my god niece. So my great aunt's daughter's goddaughter, god niece is how I refer to her. That's not the proper term, but whatever. I went to her confirmation, her first communion, and like I still don't get that imagery. Like I don't see anything that has like the that would indicate the wine, the bread, or like it looks like someone coming up for confession or like saying like reading passages as they're confessing. Like obviously I'm coming from like a Protestant background and I've only been to one Catholic service.
This
but
is
like,
definitely a more traditional
feels...
portrayal of a first communion, and like my communion didn't look exactly like this, but like we did wear like all white. We wore all white, and we did kneel down before the altar.
That's not even a factor that I was thinking of. I'm just not seeing an imagery like I'm not seeing any like the best term I can come up with is totems or like anything in the image itself that like comes across as like portraying the communion itself. Like she just looks like she's coming up and like worshiping to me. Like I don't see like I've mentioned this a couple times, but like I don't see the wine, I don't see the bread. That imagery is what like would convince me it's communion.
Yeah, like I said, it's because you just weren't raised Catholic. Like if you are raised Catholic, like you recognize the imagery in it because that's something that you would have experienced firsthand and you would have come up with it. You would have seen it a million times. Like I saw this exact scene over and over again every Easter growing up. So like I can recognize immediately. Yeah, this is somebody's first. That's that little girl's first communion.
It's insane to think just like the way you were like how different like being like your religious experience even from Abrahamic religions in itself can lead to the interpretation of that because like that does not come across to me any way at all as communal.
Yeah, like somebody who's not like raised, somebody who's not like experienced with like going to Catholic services. I mean, but that's like the case with like basically everything having to do with the Catholic Mass. It has a lot of symbolism in it that if you're not like raised in it and taught about, like before because I joined the church when I was 11, so I was baptized when I was 11 because my parents converted.
I didn't know your parents were converts. I thought they were raised Catholic. Interesting.
My mom was raised Catholic, but she had been away from the church when like she stopped going to church when she was 18 and then started going again later on, and my dad kind of tagged along and he ended up converting. And so that's when my sister and I were baptized.
Interesting. I could believe your dad is a convert, but just like the way you've described your mom, it technically she's not a comfort, but she also is at the same time because she kind of like stopped and whatever. But
Yeah, she kind of straddles. Anyways, so yeah, this is that the portrait of the naked woman washing her feet. That's kind of what he was doing around the early 1920s. It was kind of part of that return to order sort of movement in the art world, which is just like, I don't know. I think it was, I kind of get the sense that it was kind of like an emotional reset for a lot of artists, because a lot of those artists like went off and they experienced the war. And so, imagine you're like a young art student and you've been raised in like this sort of, you might be like an abstractist painter now, but like when you were growing up, you kind of found comfort in like your repetitive, like neoclassical training. And then you go off to war and you experience, say, for example, the Battle of Verdun. Maybe you lose a limb or something, you lose a bunch of friends. You come back, you kind of want to remember a time before that. You kind of want to reach back into your childhood and kind of find something a little more comforting. And so I think that's why a lot of these guys kind of returned to their sort of neoclassical roots and started painting these less abstract stuff. I think it was just like an emotional way to kind of try to reach back to their innocence. That's the impression that I got.
it makes total sense from what context I have at the time, with how horrific both World Wars were. I have no ifs, ands, or doubts about, like, hey, this may be a great departure from I'm used to painting, but, like, this is what I grew up painting. This feels like a return to form. This kind of, like, gives me solace. I'm painting this now. Yeah, I get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that return to order movement only lasted for a few years, and then they started doubling down on the weird. So, yeah, this is when...
Well, no shit. Like, once you see so many horrors, eventually you're like, okay, no longer needed to return to form. I need to, like, express the horrors I have onto a medium.
Yeah, and that's something that I find endlessly fascinating, is the effect that that like traumatized soldiers have on like art. Like after the First World War, there was a big crash in movie production in France because a lot of French soldiers coming home couldn't get over how fake movies looked at the time, which they did look, but if you're just like you just like grew up in a small village, you hadn't really experienced much of life, you see a movie, like a moving picture, for the first time, and it's so mind-blowing that technology exists that you can suspend your disbelief to kind of just take the story as it is, as kind of like a silent film. If you're coming back from the trenches of World War I, you have seen too much of reality to ever suspend your disbelief at a silent film again.
I don't even know necessarily that it's a fault with the silent film at the time, with like the audience they had, more as like, I don't think they can get into like the state of mind you would need to enjoy it.
Yeah, like you're a person who knows in detail what the inside of a human body looks like after it's been blown apart. How are you ever able to enjoy like realistic looking art again? Because to you, that's just, is no matter how realistic it is, it's gonna look fake. You've seen too much real to ever believe it again. And so you can't really do realistic art anymore. You got to get abstract with it, and you got to get weird with it.
At that point, you're just like, I don't think they can enjoy like anything where you have to have any like, even like a smidgen of suspension of disbelief or to enjoy it. Like it's at that point where like, I have to enjoy, like, hey, a baseball game. I know exactly what's happening. I know the inner machinations of this. I can be present in reality, but also like just be lost in it too.
Yeah. Like, trying to imagine myself, put myself in their shoes. A year ago, I was in Belgium watching my best friend's eyes melt out of his face from a German gas attack. And now here I am looking at a portrait of a couple of pieces of fruit on a table. What am I supposed to get out of that?
You wouldn't give a flying fuck.
Right, yeah. And I think that is a big impetus for the surrealist art movement that we're about to talk about, and it's also a big reason why fascism came about, because fascism is fundamentally, at its core, it is a political movement constructed from the aestheticization of violence. Because after you've experienced, because it was found, fascism was created by World War I veterans. It was like in Italy, like Mussolini was like proto special forces. He was an officer in the Arditi. Like, he saw some crazy shit. You interpret the world fundamentally differently after that. And the only thing,
you're fucking broken after that.
yeah, when your mind is changed and rewired in that way, the only thing that you can really take seriously is violence. And that's the only lens that you can understand the world through. And so, of course, they'd come up with fascism. Fascism is fundamentally, at its core, violence as an aesthetic turned into a political project. So, anyways, that's...
AKA, like, for wholly different reasons, what we're dealing with America right now.
In a lot of ways, yeah.
I would say I honestly think with the way information has been disseminated in the last 2 decades, and how, like, we've just been, like, the news cycle has just fucked with people's perception of reality, that's what's led to the rise of fascism today.
So, in the 1920s, you get this art movement called surrealism. And it wasn't just physical art like painting. It was also poetry, other types of literature, music. Surrealist music is real fucking weird. Like, if you don't get it, you don't get it. But the basic idea of surrealism was, it was a response to the traumas of World War I. It was to take the illogical, dreamlike ideas that float around in a person's unconscious and translate that into the real world. Try to portray that in the real world so you can create like a synthesis of these abstract, absurd things that kind of float around in your unconscious mind, unfiltered, and translate that into the real world, something that can be communicated and perceived by others. And Picasso's Cubism fit really neatly into surrealism. It was kind of that same idea. It was an interpretation of what you saw in the physical world, but translated in an abstract way onto the medium.
Okay.
And so around the 1925, he kind of falls in with the surrealist movement and starts to make a lot of friends in surrealism. And this is probably his first exposure to Marxism, because a lot of these guys were early Marxists. Kind of unclear, because he was never like a politically... Like, he became politically active eventually, but he was always kind of like... His politics were really vibe-based. He never had, like, coherent political ideas. But this might be where he was first exposed to, like, Marxism.
Okay.
So, in 1927, he met a 17-year-old girl named Marie-Therese Walter.
Oh my god, is he a pedo?
Who he begins to have an affair with.
He's a fucking pedo. God damn it, Derek! Yeah. Why did you fucking warn me?
Yeah. Unfortunate. Yeah. Yeah.
Now I can't look at his art for the fucking same. How old was he?
45.
What the fuck?
Oh, buddy, if you think that's bad, it only gets worse from here.
God damn it! God fucking damn it!
Yeah, let me give you a hint. The women stay the same age as he gets older.
That's it. When we get the time machine, I'm punching his lights out.
Oh, he'd deserve it. Yeah, absolutely.
We need to keep a running, like, time machine, like, to-do list. Punch Pablo Picasso's lights out. Kill Hitler. Fix so many things in the timeline.
Shoot Lenin in 1918.
Yeah.
So, this girl, this child, is today referred to as Picasso's golden muse, quote unquote, because she is probably the single most represented subject in his artwork. He makes more paintings of her than any other single person. And let me see if I...
So instead of sicko mode, he went pedo mode?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Here...
God fucking damn it!
Here are some of his famous paintings that portray her. And you can see he's getting, like, very heavily inspired by surrealist art.
I don't know how you even have, like, one individual person be inspiration for that, though. That's just, like, vague silhouettes. Like, you don't need a specific person to be that inspiration.
Yeah. You see that picture, the third picture, where she's sitting in an armchair?
The head's kind of, like, split open?
Yeah, look at the top half of the head. It's shaped like a penis.
Fuck you, Derek.
Hey, that's not me. That's Picasso. He did that on purpose.
He intentionally made it look like a penis.
Yes, his penis.
Well, cutting his penis off is now added to the list on the time travel list.
Yeah. Interesting to know it curved to the left.
I didn't need that fucking information, sir.
Hey, I'm just calling, like, I'm just here to give the facts. I'm just calling it like I see it.
That's not a fact I needed to goddamn know!
Hey, facts don't care about your feelings.
That's not a fact anyone needed to fucking know! That should have been lost to fucking history!
So, naturally, because of, the affairs, he and Olga's relationship deteriorated, and in 1934 she found out that he was having an affair, and his mistress was pregnant.
Another child. This is child number 2, right?
Yep. So she moved out, and she took their son and moved to southern France in 1935. She wanted a divorce, but he didn't want to divorce because, according to French law back then, regardless of the reason for the divorce, the woman always took half the estate. And he didn't want to give up half the estate. So he refused to get a divorce.
This is one of the times where the law would fuck the man, and he deserved getting raped by the system.
Oh yeah, definitely. So because he refused to divorce, she took a bunch of his paintings when he wasn't home and ran off with them and hid them, and threatened to destroy them if he didn't either divorce her or give her and their son an allowance so that they could live comfortably. And so he took the deal and would pay them a certain amount of money so that they could live comfortably middle class for the rest of her life.
All my homies hate Pablo Picasso.
Yes, yeah. And so they would remain legally married until her death from cancer in 1955.
God damn.
And then Picasso and, what was her name? Marie-Therese. Picasso and Marie-Therese would have a daughter born in 1935. And they named her...
How old was she when she had the kid?
1935. So they met in 1927. She was 17. So 35 was 8 years later. So she was 25.
She wasn't a teen mother.
Right. Yeah. She was 25. So, the 1930s were a bad time for everybody. It was the Great Depression, fascism was on the rise, and Picasso himself began to become more openly political, particularly in regards to his opposition to the growing nationalist movement in Spain, which is a sort of pseudo. There were definitely fascist elements, but it wasn't all fascist. Some of them were like monarchist restorationists, because at this point, there had been like a revolution in Spain. I can't remember what year it was, but the royal family had been overthrown and a republic had been instated. And so there were a lot of like, the nationalist cause was kind of a mishmash of like fascist and conservative traditionalists, or like Catholic traditionalists, and like hardline conservatives, and like a lot of like,
They were at the end of the day just like, hey, we'll figure shit out at the end. Fuck this current regime. And there was a lot of opposing voices.
Yeah, and usually what happens is there's a lot of assassinations, and then one strong man ends up on top, which is exactly what happened with this one when Francisco Franco took over the nationalist cause in 1938 after the Civil War had begun. But I'm getting ahead of myself. In 1935, he met and began having an affair with a prominent surrealist painter, a woman who had like a prestigious artistic career. Like, she was famous in France, and she had a prestigious career of her own by this point. A woman named Dora Maar. Dora was not only a similar artistic mind to Picasso, but was also a devoted anti-fascist activist. They started having an affair.
I said that besmirches anyone who's Antifa everywhere.
Yeah, that's a complicated history. As Picasso, for all of his faults, was a dedicated anti-fascist. So, you know, low bar, but like, he did meet it. You can't say the same thing about a lot of people. So she would urge him to be more deliberate in his art and to try and turn his abstract work into like political statements and messages.
Did he do this?
Yes, he did. In July of 1936, a coalition of nationalist generals in Spain would attempt a coup on the Republican government in Madrid. They would be stopped by armed leftist militias who would force them out of the capital, launching off the Spanish Civil War. Yep. Though Picasso was still living in France, he was still the most famous Spanish artist on the planet, so the Republican government offered him the role of basically like, I can't remember what the actual title was, but he was basically like the cultural director for the Spanish government, and he was responsible for like preserving and promoting the art and culture of the Spanish people.
Chief propagandist.
Yes, but like, it's not bad propaganda, because it's not like lying to anybody. They're just like, look at the beautiful culture that Spain has, and it's being threatened by the repressive fascism of the Spanish nationalists. That's their basic pitch, and that's kind of the direction he took it. The nationalist forces would receive support from Nazi Germany and fascist Italy, including a unit of German bombers from the Luftwaffe called the Condor Legion.
Interesting.
Which is unfortunately a very good name, and you don't have to hand it to the Nazis, but Condor Legion is a good name, and it's disappointing that they have to take it. In January of 1937, German bomber planes destroyed a small town in northern Spain in the Basque region called Guernica. During the bombing, around 1,000 civilians were killed, the vast majority of whom were women and children. At the time, the nationalists and the Nazis claimed that it was a case of the bombers flying at night and hitting the wrong target because they couldn't see in the darkness. It was later discovered after World War II ended that the Nazis deliberately targeted Guernica so that they could test some of their theories in terror bombings that they would later on use during the war.
Is this one of those things where like I know the sleep experiments are like inflated, but like the what would the sleep experiments like were based off of kind of shit?
No, I think that'd be more like Unit 731 type stuff, maybe. I think they did stuff like that in concentration camps, but this specifically, it was testing. They were testing out strategic bombing strategies that would kind of become a staple during World War II. Frankly, of all sides, like the Nazis did a lot of terror bombing, but like the United States and Britain also did a lot of terror bombing. But this was the first example of an actual bombing of a civilian population with no deliberate military target for the purpose of lowering the population's morale. And this bombing killed between 800 and 1,200 people. Picasso was enraged and devastated by the bombings. He was furious about it. He already didn't like the nationalists. He hated the nationalists after the coup attempt and for starting the Civil War. Now he was fucking spitting fire and brimstone about it. He hated the nationalists with every fiber of his being. And it prompted him to paint his most famous painting ever. And possibly also the most famous piece of anti-war art in all of human history. And that is this one. It is a piece simply titled Guernica.
It looks like a depiction of Sheol or like hell.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of
I don't know why my brain is making a distinction between hell and Sheol, but like it feels feels more, the best way I can describe it is biblical, even though like than regular, like the term hell feels.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely, you can see in just the framing of the painting, you can see a lot of inspiration from a lot of classical, like the classical masters of the medium, just the framing of it. But in the abstract, you can see in the top left of the painting, you can see a bull.
I was getting Minotaur vibes.
But in the specifics, you can see like in the bottom center, you can see like the dismembered arm of a soldier holding a broken sword. You can see a horse that's been impaled by a piece of shrapnel and killed in the middle. You can see the light at the top of the painting kind of representing an explosion. On the left, you can see a mother holding her dead child.
Fuck. The more you look at it, the more you see, and it's just like,
yeah,
sick to your stomach kind of things.
Yeah. Yeah, and it portrays holistically taken all together, what this portrays is a moment of nightmarish panic, like animalistic fear in like its most direct sense.
Yeah.
He's not even like portraying grief. There's not really grief here. There's just like animalistic fear. They haven't even gotten to the point of grief yet. It is actively in the act of murder in this portrayal. Guernica was the painting Guernica was first displayed at the Spanish Pavilion of the 1937 Paris International Art Exposition, it's just an expo of artwork from all around the world, like whoever the prominent artists from every country around the world kind of could come and display their art. And this was like the keystone piece of the Spanish Pavilion. And while it was it was meant to attract visitors, come see like this giant Picasso piece, and then while you're there, they would ask you to make donations that would be given to the Spanish Republican cause. In 1939, so after this expo, the painting was sent to Spain to a museum in Madrid, and it was expected, he was expecting, okay, the Republicans are eventually going to win this, and then this will be like a moment of Spanish history, forever portrayed in painting that's kept as a cultural icon of our moment in history for future generations of Spaniards. Unfortunately, the Republicans did not win.
God damn it.
In 1939, the nationalists under Francisco Franco would win the Civil War. Picasso feared that the painting would be destroyed by the nationalist government, and so he had it shipped to New York City, and he donated it to the Metropolitan Museum of Modern Art. He gave them instructions that he eventually wanted it to be returned to Spain, but he told them, do not return it to Spain until democracy has returned to Spain. And so it would stay there in a museum in New York until 1981, when Francisco Franco would finally die and power would be restored to the parliament in Spain.
Hell yeah.
And so that's where it is today. It's still in Madrid today, the original. World War II would begin in 1939. And in 1940, Germany invaded and occupied France. Picasso decided that he was going to stay in Paris. He had the opportunity to run. He decided not to. And he was going to stay under Nazi occupation despite the risks. He was constantly harassed by the Gestapo because the Nazis were aware of who he was. They knew he was an outspoken anti-fascist, and they considered his art style, like surrealist and abstract art, to be emblematic of what they saw as degenerate modern art. They thought that modern art was being promoted by Jews to undermine traditional European culture. Yeah.
Why do, I don't mean just Nazis, but why do alt-rights always have to say, hey, this artistic thing is always the Jews, or this thing is the Jews, or,
Because creativity is dangerous to the status quo, and that's the fascism is a last-ditch effort to preserve the status quo. That's
even their excuses have no creativity, and it's fucking sad.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why you very rarely get conservative artists, because if you were creative enough to be an artist, it's very unlikely that you wouldn't be creative enough to imagine a better world than we have now, and so you wouldn't be a conservative. So they raided his studio a number of times during the occupation. And one time during a raid, a Gestapo officer saw a picture of his Guernica painting that was hanging on his wall. It wasn't the actual painting, it was just a portrait that he'd taken a picture and had it on his wall. And the Gestapo officer asked Picasso, he pointed at the picture and he said, "Did you do that?" Asking him, did you paint it? He said, "Did you do that?" And Picasso replied, "No, you did."
He's not wrong.
Yeah. Picasso wasn't directly involved with the French resistance, but he did support them in his own way, and it's a very Picasso way to support them. Before the war, Picasso had...
A very misogynistic way?
Surprisingly, no.
Wow.
So, before the war, Picasso had begun experimenting with sculptures made of cast bronze. Bronze is an alloy of copper and tin. 80% of all the copper needed to make bronze was imported from outside Europe. Unfortunately, copper was also needed to build electronics, like the electronics needed in a lot of the equipment that was being used by the German army. So when the war began, people stopped importing to Europe because all of the places with the copper were now at war with Nazi Germany. And so they ran out of copper really fast. And so they outlawed using copper for art. And so what Picasso would do is he would go to his contacts in the French resistance and he would say, hey, I need a shipment of copper to make some bronze. Do you think that you could go and raid some German stockpiles and get some copper for me? And if you bring it back, I'll pay you top dollar for it. And then you can use that money to buy like guns and food for your operatives and things like that.
So this one time in his history, we stand him.
Yeah, this is rad as fuck. He's
Comrade Picasso, only in this one instance.
in this one instance, he's giving money to the resistance to Nazi occupation. He's stealing from the Nazis, and he's using it to make genuinely beautiful art.
That's sick as fuck.
Yeah, that's really cool. That is awesome.
Too bad he couldn't be that fucking sick the rest of his life.
Yeah, it's a shame he couldn't apply his liberationist politics to, women. Or Africans.
Or, anything besides, like, a...
Himself.
Yeah.
So, after Paris was liberated in 1944, Picasso began an affair with a young artist named Francois Guillot.
How old was she?
She was 23.
She's legal this time. Wow!
Low bar, but he crossed it. He was...
God damn it. I hate that we're impressed by him not fucking a minor.
Yeah, he was 63.
Ew.
Yeah.
That's worse than, who the fuck is it? Who's the celebrity that will only fuck someone under 25?
That would be Leonardo DiCaprio. Although that could apply to lots of different... that could also be...
Leonardo DiCaprio is who I was thinking of.
So he would eventually... This is exactly how it was worded in my research. He got tired of Dora Maar, his current girlfriend. And so he dumped her and started dating Francois. And the two of them would ultimately have 2 children together.
So, children 3 and 4?
Yep. And these are his last 2, I promise. He would have...
At that point, his balls privileges get revoked.
Yeah.
His breeding privileges should have been revoked with the minor, but...
Yeah. His son Claude was born in 1947, and his daughter Paloma was born in 1949.
Did he have any kind of relationship with his children prior to these 2?
He did stay...
Long-term relationship.
He kind of ended up hopping in and out of... While his oldest son was growing up, while Pablo was growing up, his mom didn't really let him have a relationship with Pablo. But once he got out on his own, he did get back. He was back in Picasso's life, and they did spend a lot of time together as adults. Maya, he was after she turned like 8, I think 8 or 10. He basically just popped out of her life, never really like interacted with her again. And then these,
like a true misogynist.
Yeah, and then these 2, he would actually stick around to raise them.
So you're saying he abandoned his first daughter, like a true misogynist would?
Yeah. So most of the rest of his life, he spent, he still painted a lot, but he spent most of his time on sculpting. He wanted to work on sculptures. And so in the 50s, he constructed a huge mansion on the French Riviera. And he and his little family lived like celebrities. His work was constantly being interrupted by fans and reporters wanting to do interviews and things like that. And he kept facing issues with the law. Like, he would try to apply for French citizenship, and they would deny him because after the war, he joined the French Communist Party.
They thought he was a filthy communist. And not in the good way.
Right, yeah. In 1949, This is one of the most this is one part of his story that genuinely shocked me. I had no idea that this was part of his story. In 1949, Picasso was, it was after the war, all of the traumas of like the occupation and everything that had happened. He started thinking about his dad a lot. His dad was dead by that point. He started thinking about his dad, and his dad was spent his whole life painting birds. That was his great joy. And he was thinking about how he never wanted. He became like an anti-war activist, basically. And he wanted to paint something kind of in memory of his dad as like an anti-war symbol. And so he painted a small piece. It was simply titled Dove. And it was this piece right here. It is a simple white dove on a black background.
You're going to create so much homework for the listeners at home. It's a very simple artwork, but it's very realistic too. The listeners' homework on looking up these artworks are going to be so infallible.
Yeah, either they're not going to care or they're going to go into it like with the context. And I honestly, like, when I have the context of the artist's life, it kind of increases the enjoyment I get out of the art. Like, I enjoy Picasso's work a lot more knowing who he was and what the story was behind a lot of these pieces.
You can critique him as well a lot more authentically as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I love his art. He was a real piece of shit, but I do love his art. In 1949, Picasso painted this white dove. The painting was featured on posters for the 1949 World Peace Council, which was an anti-war conference of international representatives all around the world, came together and discussed like the future of building world peace to prevent a large global war like that from ever happening again. And this conference was sponsored by the Soviet Union, which kind of throws into doubt the legitimacy of the council, but like, you take what you can get. Because of this image, it became so associated with the World Peace Council. The white dove became an international symbol for peace and is still used to this day by anti-war activists. This is where it got its start as an anti-war symbol. I had no idea where the white dove came from as an anti-war symbol. I never really thought about it. And so this came up in a story. I was like, wait a minute.
Things are finally making sense.
Yeah, I never expected that. Picasso created the anti-war white dove symbol. So, in 1952, he met and began an affair with a young woman named Jacqueline Roque.
Another goddamn affair. Take a sip.
Yeah.
What is this, affair number 4 or 5?
5 or 6. He separated from Francois, and...
how old is this affair?
Hold on. I can find that.
Does he date any more minors? Let me put it this way.
No. Not to my knowledge.
Thank fucking God. That's a low goddamn bar, but he only fucked one minor. That we know of.
That we know of. He was fucking a lot of people, I'm sure. The ones I've mentioned so far are just the ones that he had, like, long-term relationships with. He fucked lots of other people. So I'm sure many of them were minors.
So, definitely cutting his dick off when we get our time machine.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, 100%. Okay, so she was born in 1926. They started dating in 1952. So she was... Okay, so she was 26.
And how old was he?
He was, let's see, 1881, 91, 01, 11, 21, 31, 41, 51. He was 70.
What the fuck, people? At that point, she has to see him as a sugar daddy, not like an actual romantic partner, right?
Well, she was so devastated by his death that she took her own life.
He ain't worth it, girly pop. What the fuck?
Yeah.
In no situation is Pablo Picasso worth taking your own life off, even if you loved him that goddamn much, because he's a serial fuck. He is a prolific cheater.
Yeah. They would start dating in 1952, and they would become married in 1961. And they would stay together for the rest of their lives.
This is wife 2 or 3?
This is wife 2.
Okay.
This is like partner 8 or 9, though.
I said wife intentionally. I know how many paramours he had.
Yeah, technically he was only married twice.
But he is officially a bigamist.
No, because they married in 1961. His first wife died in 1955.
Okay, wow, okay.
Picasso's last famous work was a sculpture that was commissioned by the city of Chicago. What he ended up giving them was a 50-foot tall abstract representation of the head of an Afghan greyhound.
What the shit?
Not a big fan of this one, actually. It's not one of my favorites that he's done.
This is by far his worst artwork I've seen.
Yeah.
It is objectively bad.
Yeah, but it still stands to this day in Daley Plaza in Chicago.
They should feel bad.
It was installed in 1967. After they installed it, the city tried to pay him $100,000 for the sculpture, but he declined it.
It's not worth $100.
Yeah, probably not.
This is not my hate for him. Like, that is a shit tier sculpture, full stop. Like, that's not good by any means. Like, that's objectively bad.
I think I'd have to see it in real life to judge for myself, but yeah, I'm not really getting anything off it. I think it's because such a big part of his artwork and his style was color. And there's not really any color, it's just metal. Rusted metal at that. This was taken a few years ago.
If you're good at welding, you could have created your arcs to create some, like, if you're good at, like, if you do your welds very specifically, you can get that rainbow effect. You can get some heat. And I think that if he put some pop into it, like, with his, like, heat control, he probably could get some really good color on that.
And here's the thing, he did do a lot of sculpture work that I do really like here, let me grab a couple of them real quick.
I don't know how it would, like, so a lot of the artwork I've seen with welding and that involves color with like specifically from the welding has been like recent post weld. So this could be me not being aware of how long that would last and desaturate out. But like I don't feel like you would have a permanent installation if that was part of the artwork. Like I'm just very much like, fuck this guy. This is not a good artwork of a sculpture, period, in my opinion.
Yeah. Like, here's some of his other bronze work. And, like, I really like these.
Yeah, no, like, that's objectively so much better.
Like, his busts are really nice. I really enjoy these. Just for some reason, the one he made for Chicago is just kind of a swing and a miss.
That's like looking at, it's like comparing 80s, like, so the most recent, like, the busts you showed me are like comparing 80s fast food restaurants, 90s fast food restaurants to 2000s to today fast food restaurants. Like, the buildings, like, it's that stark of a difference.
So this piece that he gave to Chicago, he refused to take the $100,000.
They should have rejected it.
They refused to take he refused to take the $100,000 payment for it, and he stated that it was a donation specifically to the people of Chicago, not to the Chicago city government, but to the people of Chicago.
I would have been insulted if this were my town.
Oh, well, I think people in Chicago like it, so if it's their city.
It's objectively bad, Derek.
I mean, yeah, but I think we're probably missing something. 'Cause keep in mind, this thing's 50 feet tall. I bet we're missing something by not seeing it in person.
No, it's still objectively bad. I can tell there's height to it. It is objectively bad. It is modernist. Like it is like, and this was in the what 60s, 70s when he made this.
Yeah, it was 1967.
I cannot express how it is shit tier. It feels like bullshit AI to me.
You know what? I'm going to start liking it just to spite you.
There's so much shit that you've done the exact same thing. It doesn't even fucking surprise me. It's bad. It is so fucking bad. I don't know how any of that is related to any of the art I have seen that you have sent me today.
So, on April 7th, 1973, Pablo Picasso and his wife Jacqueline entertained some friends for dinner. After they left, he stayed up until 3 in the morning painting. He woke up the next morning at 11:30, and he was having severe chest pain and was unable to move.
Quick question, did he finish the painting he was in the middle of before he died?
I do not know. I didn't check on that.
Damn it.
Jacqueline called for a doctor, but by the time the doctor arrived, he was already dead from a heart attack. It was April 8th, 1973, and Pablo Picasso was 91 years old.
Damn, he lived a long life that he didn't deserve.
Yeah, he really did. He was buried in the yard of his chateau in southern France.
He didn't deserve to own a fucking chateau.
He owned multiple.
Fuck this man. And not in the literal sense.
Mm-hmm. In 1985, a recreation of Picasso's painting Guernica, the anti-war one, it was put up in the entrance chamber to the UN Security Council at the UN headquarters in New York City. It was a reminder of the cost of war and the ultimate goal of the United Nations to foster a peaceful coexistence of all people. On February 5th, 2003, Secretary of State Colin Powell and U.S. diplomat to the UN John Negroponte gave a speech in that chamber urging the UN Security Council to support and authorize the United States' illegal invasion of Iraq. They stood in front of that very painting, but before the speech, the Bush administration ordered the UN to cover up the painting with a blue curtain, so that none of the cameras or press would be able to see the two men demand the world justify their war in front of a piece of art showing the consequences of their demands.
Why do you have to make me feel like some kind of way? I don't even know how to describe this feeling. What about his artwork? Because, fuck the Bush administration for doing that.
Yeah. Picasso was a very complicated man. And this show, the format that we do this show, we do a lot of biographical stories. We do stories about individual people and the things that they did and the context in which they did it within their own lives. And when you're talking about an artist, the meaning that you get from their art is very often going to clash with the details of who they were as people. And I don't think that that's more apparent anywhere than with this fucking guy.
God damn, you're right.
His art has inspired the creativity and is the bedrock of modern popular art. It is the style which has become for good or for ill, it has become the portal through which any person can take ideas and feelings and emotions that they have to confront in their day-to-day lives and translate it into a piece that can communicate those ideas to others. And that was in large part stylistically was made possible by Picasso. And in my opinion, I think that that's a very, very good thing. I think that art is.
Just because he did great things for modern art doesn't mean he's not a piece of shit and I hate him and he shouldn't have fucking been born.
Yes. And that's the thing, is that, like, I look at Guernica. I look at the portrait of Kahnweiler. I look at his Blue Period works, and they are genuinely moving to me.
Yeah, and it pisses me off that, like, such an evil man, because, like, obviously he is, like, a horrible, vile human being, in my opinion. Like, I am vehemently opposed to this man having any kind of recognition ever. Did such awe-inspiring works that we have to acknowledge him.
Yeah, his art has done. His art is so far above who he was as a person that we've kind of been forced to separate him from it.
And I fucking hate that idea. Separate the art from the artist. Like, there's so many people who try and say that, like...
The thing with Picasso is that, like, I genuinely believe his art has done an incredible amount to enrich human culture.
And that fucking pisses me off. Like, you are factually correct. He is a shitty human being who has had a positive impact on humanity. And it pisses me off.
Yeah, and that fucking blows, honestly. But that's like... That's the thing, though, is that he's worm food. He's rotting in the ground. He's not here to say what we can and can't do with his artwork. He is not here to tell anybody what we can and can't do with his artwork. His art now belongs to the great collective legacy of humanity. And so, yeah, that is my take on Picasso. He's dead and gone, and now the work that he left behind is the collective legacy of the human race, and it is both our privilege and our responsibility to do with it what we will. And I think the legacy that he left behind has been utilized for good. Maybe in spite of him, but it has been for good, I think.
Definitely in spite of him. Like, this man does not deserve the legacy he has, but the legacy that is actually, like, remembered, and, like, everything that everyone remembers doesn't harm anyone, so it's not hurtful in, like, the way that it could be.
Right, yeah. Plus, I really need to emphasize his work was his cubism was the foundation for modern art. And his cubism was directly inspired by traditional African artwork. I really need to make sure that that's out there.
So what you're saying, he's the equivalent of Elvis in stealing artwork from...
Yes. Yes, he is the Elvis of modern art.
God damn. That is the best comparison I've had in a long time on the podcast.
Yeah. A fucking surrealist rodeo, man. That shit's gonna live in my head rent free.
Anything else before we hop off, Derek?
No. I said my piece. You can find me on social media. My blue sky is @Visigoth. The O is a 0. I guess you could try to, if you do manage to find me on Instagram. I don't post anything there, but I have it. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but if you find it, I guess you can follow me if you want.
You can figure it out. There's enough context clues if you want to dig it up for both me and Derek.
Yeah, you know my first name and where I live, so, like, go for it, I guess.
I'm pretty sure we've said your last name in the podcast before, too.
Maybe at some point, but, I'll let them find it. I'll let them go digging.
Yeah, And they can find me at Tim aka Otis, and they find me anywhere else. They can try and add me, but message me saying, "Hey, I found you from the podcast," and I'll consider it. But I have my Instagram private because I kept getting random shit people trying to add me.
Mm-hmm.
And they can find the podcast at the Alexander Society Pod on Facebook and Instagram. Alexander Society Pod on Twitter. Fuck Twitter. On Blue Sky. And then Alexander Society on TikTok. And I'm going to try and get Derek to post something tomorrow.
Great.
You don't have to interact with actual... You just have to record a minute-long video, Derek. You don't have to actually interact with the actual platform in a real sense.
That's fair.
And if they've liked what they've listened to, they can give us a rate and a review on their streaming platform of choice, and we will see you next time.
Bye.